Greetings again, everybody. Welcome back to Dark Souls 2, the Crown of the Old Iron King. We are right back where we left off. Same bonfire. Hell, even same sitting technically, because I went through this area all in one sitting. The DLCs are kind of more long areas compared to the regular main game areas. But that's to be expected, I paid bucks for them. And this here's probably my favorite room of the DLC period. I don't even really know why, even though I hate fighting those lightning guys. Using those idols, those Taurus idols, seems like a fun way to harm enemies. And yeah, those assholes can teleport. And they will always show up behind you if they teleport, so it's best to dodge ahead. But you can't very well dodge into flames because they will also hurt you, and that's bad. That's a really helpful message, actually. That wall is a little damaged. So if we manage to somehow produce an explosion in the close vicinity to it, that'll probably help to get rid of that wall. And opening that gate actually might help as well, but yeah, let's just see what this fire does to those guys over there. They don't seem to be aggroed really, so let's take care of that wall problem by hurting those guys, or rather one of them, to the wall and then setting them on the fire. Getting those guys to move where you want them to move is not always that easy. They're not always as cooperative as they are right now. Though they actually are scripted in a way that makes it so they are supposed to run away from you. But if you're impatient, they might just not do that. And that's a really good treasure chest right there. 8 petrified dragon bones. That's awesome. You need more than 8 to fully upgrade a boss weapon though. But still, it's a tremendous amount of upgrade materials of that quality in just one chest. Now, just so you know, we can also attack those idols from the other side and make them go back to where they came from. This is gonna be useful to us at some point, of course. And look at that! That's one way to find out accidentally. Or you could just assume that it does that. Oh, look at that. This is one of those big guys with the fire shoulders, alternating left and right with the fire. You just need to remember which shoulder the fire came out of last, and just strafe to that direction if you need to side strafe. Of course, also pay attention to the way he's poised and how he lines up his shoulder, because he might sometimes move in a way that makes it so strafing in that direction is probably not the smartest idea. But still, fight smart. Use the environment to your advantage, and those guys will be much easier, even if you are not daring enough to strafe around them with the fire and all. The fire doesn't do that much damage though. But we did get his weapon. The Smelter Hammer, sometimes lovingly called the Chicken Wing. It's probably the biggest Great Hammer type weapon in the Souls game ever. Also the strongest one maybe, and the heaviest one, and the one that requires 70 fucking strength. That's more than I ever gave any of my characters. But you only need a small amount of that, really, to wield it two-handed at least. If you want to wield it one-handed and actually do so, then good for you, good, but you shouldn't. This thing is most definitely supposed to be wielded two-handed, and two-handed only. And now we have a quick way through this entire place. Not that we really need it though. It goes right through here, and to our left is actually a shortcut. So it's kind of useless to have two shortcuts through the same room. Well, unless you want to go back there to grind for a smelter hammer. In that case, that's good for you. And we've already seen that gate from the other side. And bam, back at the bonfire. Even though having two shortcuts right here is kind of useless, I do like that the DLCs have more shortcuts that are actually meaningful. I mean, there's nothing like that one shortcut in Huntsman's Copse, which will lead back to the first bonfire, only the shortcut is right next to the second bonfire, so it's kind of meaningless to be there. So now we're in the tower that had the large pillar of flame. I'm sure you remember it. I mean, we just saw it from the outside, basically. But we did see it, of course, on our way here. And they did point out that it is our first actual destination, because there's something here that we most definitely need. And taking out those enemies with ranged attacks is not necessarily a smart idea. I mean, it's gonna work out, but you should do it close range, goes much faster. Even though I was an idiot here and enchanted my weapon and immediately switched it away and made the buff go away as well. Don't do this at home, please. Don't try this. Whenever they do that, just get away. They will not always not explode, and this is in fact the first time I saw them not explode when they do this. They do have a tendency to get lit on fire if they're, well, caught by anything that deals fire damage, like a fire arrow, for instance. Though it did kill that one guy with that last fire arrow he actually used. If you have a fire weapon, of course, it'll do the same thing. But setting them on fire is just gonna make him a little more aggressive and then suicide themselves, so setting them on fire is actually not a pretty bad idea. It's a good idea. They will usually light those things on fire as well with their explosions. But hey, just to show you that you can do that, I did it. Now, this room down there is one of the more difficult to reach in my opinion. And whether it's worth it or not, you be the judge. It's also guarded by one of those guys, of course, in very tight quarters, which is the worst space to fight them in. If you gotta fight those guys, you'll want to have a lot of space to move around. Not necessarily because they have really dangerous attacks, but because they might blow up. Which actually is a dangerous attack, to think of it. And we got lucky here. Our dear phantom that invaded us doesn't appear to have noticed us yet. So we can get maybe a little bit of a surprise attack in. Quicksword Rachel is one of the boring NPC phantoms. Like, I know I said in the previous DLC that the NPC phantoms get progressively better as the DLCs go on, but this isn't one of them that are really interesting. But soon, don't worry, we're gonna see one. I'm just glad this went so fast. Now there's a couple of doors here. We only need to go through one, which I will spoil it because it's not a spoiler, is actually the last one we're gonna go through. Which, going from right to left, is actually the leftmost one. And most of them don't have anything in them. And you heard the sound just now? That's that guy. If there's an invisible lightning ninja, or fume sorcerer, as the game calls them, if there's one of those in the room, well, you'll hear that sound before they ambush you. And recollection we just found is a hex that works kind of... well, it's an orb that gets placed in the sky and shoots dark magic at enemies. Not necessarily in random directions, but actually towards enemies. It's not really all that powerful, I am sad to report. And final door. And yes, that's those guys on fire. Explosions or fire damage, because explosions are fire damage, will do that. But they'll also blow up. So, if you have something like maybe Firestorm and can get a lot of them on fire at the same time, you probably already won. And then again, you could also just play it safe and shoot at them from a range with fire arrows or bolts or pyromancy. Or throw fire bombs at them, or whatever, what have you. What can you do? Then this room has a couple of them. And you might suspect that this is a trap. And you'd be right. Normally I would not take this Scorching Iron Scepter right away, and instead attack those guys to get in the first hit. But the good part is that they will pretty much immediately get set on fire, and all you have to do is get close to them, trigger their explosion, and you're good. Hell, sometimes they even take out each other. You just really don't want to touch them when they're hot, because they will damage you, of course. And we did get the Scorching Iron Scepter. This is actually what we came for. We have it now and we can go back. We could just warp back to the bonfire. And, you know, do what we need to do with it. And god, yes, those guys are kind of a pain if you don't stagger them. But I have since switched my ring, my name engraved ring, for the stone ring again, because that's the smart thing to do. Unless you're looking for co-op with particular people, like friends or people from the thread. In that case, go use the name engraved ring, choose a deity, and have fun. It's sadly the only way to actually do co-op, or hell, I think even some kinds of PvP with the people you want to do it with. And you have to give up a ring slot for it. I'm not really sure it's a good idea to have people sacrifice a ring slot for that, but hey, it does work out. It's not too bad. And we are actually back here. And now this big room. I didn't show this properly yet, but this is the place where we need to bring the Scorching Iron Scepter. It'll make this whole place come alive. And it actually opens up the DLC a lot more. We now have access to plenty of new areas. most of which are accessed through those elevators. In fact, all of them are only accessible now because we have those elevators at our disposal. There's one going down here and one going up there, and some more further upstairs. But we're gonna explore that a little more next time, so see ya then.